Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Maybe you're even barely getting by making minimum payments. With credit card debt hitting record highs, National Debt Relief offers real debt relief solutions for people struggling to keep up. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy, and you may be able to pay back less than you owe, regardless of your credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe 10, 20, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living increases. To find out how much you could save, visit nationaldebtrelief.com. That's nationaldebtrelief.com.
You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
Mission Log Prodigy, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. Episode 31, The Last Flight of the Protostar. Part 1.
Welcome into another episode of Mission Log Prodigy, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I'm Marina Kravchuk.
And I am Charlene Schmidt. Just like our flagship Mission Log podcast, each week here on Mission Log Prodigy, we discuss each and every episode of this animated series, discover what makes each of them special, and we see if there's any morals, meanings, or messages that we've learned.
This week, we embark on The Last Flight of Protostar, Part 1. Please remember that Mission Log Prodigy is an in-depth review podcast, so if you have not seen this episode yet, you may want to put us on pause, watch the episode, and then come back to hear us talk all about it.
That's right. Mission Log Prodigy is produced for YouTube and as a regular podcast, so hit all the buttons, please. Engage the like button, share this episode, do the subscription thing, leave us a nice review and say beautiful things about us. We would love you forever for that. All that stuff matters a lot. So we would really appreciate it if you do that. And you can also follow us on a couple of accounts now. Yes, you can still go to X, formerly known as Twitter, at ML_Prodigy and keep up with our updates there. But you can also now find us on Instagram at Mission Log Prodigy, just all one thing. And that way you stay in touch with us and you can share your comments.
Now, before we jump into the recap, let's remind everybody why our podcast is so unique. We want to hear from the cadets, the younger Prodigy fans out there, who would like to share their thoughts on the show. Right now, we would like to hear what our cadets thought about both parts of The Last Flight of the Protostar. So that's Part 1, Part 2. So please record a voice message and tell us the following. What is your first name and age? Did you like the episode? What was your favorite part? And what did you learn? Then send your file to missionlog-prodigy@roddenberry.com, and please make sure it reaches our inbox no later than September 21st.
That's right. We have one more thing to tell you about before we jump into this week's episode. And that is, we're going to tell you about a giveaway we're doing where you can win some Prodigy merch. Something like, seasons 1 and 2 on Blu-ray? How about that? That's one of the prizes that you could win. Head over to the Roddenberry Entertainment YouTube channel if you're not already here, where you'll find a video that we just posted that will tell you all about the prizes that you can win and how you can enter. And speaking of which, stay tuned to the end of this show because we'll be giving you a secret code that you can use to enter. Now, with all of that said, let's kick things off for this show by answering the same questions we ask of our cadets, but just about Part 1 of The Last Flight of the Protostar. So, Marina, did you like the episode?
Absolutely. We finally get the full payoff on waiting to find the good ship Protostar and its captain. We get plenty of plot twists. Great, as a matter of fact, the best character development for Chakotay we've had so far. A lot of emotion. And not to mention, some pretty spectacular production design.
Oh, yes, you said it without a doubt. This episode takes us some places emotionally. Like, I would say we moved Chakotay from what might be the lowest point we ever see him in all of Star Trek. Lift him up and give him hope again. And we have a heartwarming reunion on top of all of that with Hologram Janeway, and it's all a little bittersweet just because she doesn't know who our cadets are, and Chakotay is starting from that low place. Nevertheless, It's so good to see them. And on top of that, this is an action-packed story, and there's some serious plot points we're going through in this episode that we've been looking forward to all season long, and like, this is a 20-something minute episode. That is no small task, and boom, it nails every bit of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to think that every single episode is just that little long, and yet we get so much storyline and so much character development and so many things just generally happening between, you know, our crew and all the legacy characters that keep popping up. So it's hard to actually pick a favorite, you know.
Yes,
really like, again, I love the fact that we get so much insight into Chakotay. There's so much more nuance. With all due respect, more nuance in these 20 minutes that we've had for Chakotay in a very long time.
Yes.
And not unlike catching up with Wesley, catching up with Chakotay is wonderful, but in a much sadder way. So, you know, in this case, my favorite part of it probably is the moment when the kids kind of like, yes, we need to fix the ship, but we don't only have to fix the ship, we have to fix the captain. And that's kind of, that's where we start.
Yeah, is that your favorite part?
Yeah.
Everything with Chakotay here is golden. I love that too. I think I had to really narrow it down because I could just list every scene in this episode.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be everything with Chakotay and Adric, because the emotion, Robert Beltran puts out one of the very best performances I've ever seen him give in those moments. And it's such an important turning point for Chakotay when it comes to grieving the loss of his first officer and healing and being able to finally move on. And we're about to try and get off this planet. So given that was such a powerful moment, I had to go with that. Yeah, so how about what you learned? What did you learn from this one?
Well, I like the fact that we have a very nice progression of the same core messages that we've had running throughout the series, and especially this season. So, you know, don't give up. Don't leave your crew behind. Work as a team. So it's wonderful to see our little crew, you know, very much united in this, and having all of that directed at Captain Chakotay, who, if you think about it, he's a much older, much more seasoned person. You know, he's senior in rank. He's more experienced in pretty much every possible way. And he's the one that needs to be saving. So that was, I think, a lovely extension, like a little twist on what, you know, the crew has been learning this season so far.
Yeah, love that. I think Gwen said it best. There's always another way. Mm-hmm. And the arrival of the cadets on Yesida proved that to Chakotay. Like, nothing is forever. He thought he was stuck on this planet till the end of his days. And maybe it'll take 10 very long years, but not forever, buddy. Not forever.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Char, for your answers. Now it's time for the recap.
Okay. So this is The Last Flight of the Protostar, Part 1, written by Jennifer Miro and directed by Sung Shin. At long last, let's catch up with Chakotay. Since we last saw him, both he and the Protostar are looking a little worse for the wear. Chakotay spends his days gathering food, cooking it, carving chess pieces of his crew out of wood, securing solar energy, rinse, repeat. It's the same old, until, intruder alert, it's our cadets ensnared in a trap. They're thrilled to see Chakotay again, and hologram Janeway even more. But it's been 10 years since this Chakotay last saw them, and hologram Janeway hasn't technically met the crew yet. It's not the happy reunion the cadets were hoping for. They try explaining what's happened, why they are there, and why Chakotay and the Protostar must go back into the past on Tars Lamora. But it's a lot for Chakotay to take in, and his answer is no. From his perspective, he's protecting the Federation from the living construct by staying stranded here. It's not much of a relief when Dal tells Chakotay that they already took care of the living construct by blowing up their, his ship. But Dal clarifies, adding that they also saved Starfleet. Chakotay's not convinced. There's no way they're getting his ship off of this planet, and bids them goodbye. Now aboard the Protostar, he rants to hologram Janeway about the time-traveling misfits. She rants back about his bad attitude and reminds him that a little bit of compassion goes a long way. Outside the Protostar and left to fend for themselves, the crew preps a makeshift shelter from an ion storm that's coming their way, and it's a big one. Lightning strikes the Protostar, and hologram Janeway nudges Chakotay to bring them aboard so they are safe. He relents and reminds the cadets that it's his ship, just in case that isn't clear. They make it into the ship just as the wind blows away what remains of their shelter. Hologram Janeway welcomes them aboard. The crew is happy to be back aboard the Protostar, even if she's seen better days. And why is it so dark in here? Chakotay conserves power as much as possible due to the solar collectors losing efficiency with each passing year. And Chakotay reveals the real reason why they will never get off this planet. The protocore? Gone. Warp drive? Nope. They make their way to the bridge, and the realization hits that not only is Chakotay stranded here, but they all are. Chakotay reassures the cadets that they'll get used to life here. It's worth it for the greater good. And if they'll excuse him, Chakotay would like a nap in the captain's chair. Could they be, anywhere else on the ship? No. Dal's had enough and calls Chakotay out. Does Starfleet training teach Chakotay to just give up when things got tough? That gets Chakotay's attention. Sensing the tension, Jankum tries diffusing it by showing them a little bird-like figurine he found, but Chakotay snatches it out of Jankum's hand. Don't touch that, he orders, or any of the other chess pieces either. Now Chakotay's had enough and leaves the cadets in hologram Janeway's hands. Forgive him, Janeway says, and explains why Chakotay is such a broken man. He's lost his entire crew. His first officer, Adrik, had an idea to harness power from the storm so the Protostar could leave. Chakotay wouldn't hear it, deeming the plan too risky, but Adrik didn't give up. He went out on his own, but never came back. Losing Adrik hit Chakotay the hardest, and the thought of losing anyone else is unbearable. Janeway excuses herself to check on him while the cadets ponder why Wesley sent them here if Chakotay's already made up his mind. Gwyn ponders that maybe they were sent here to finish what Adrik started. But not only do they have to fix a ship, they need to fix her captain. Does she have a plan? You bet. The next morning brings forth a change of pace. The crew demonstrates their willingness and capability to help, even if Chakotay is not grateful at first. But their ingenuity at least puts a little smile on his face. Let's cut to Dal, who's gathering plasma fruit at the top of a hill. A plant with a bit of a spark catches his eye, and as he examines it, a creature emerges behind him. Another ion storm is coming in, the worst Chakotay has seen in years. Everyone's safe aboard the Protostar except for Dal, and communicators aren't working thanks to the lightning. Chakotay, Gwyn, Murph, and Jankum will go hunting for him in the Runaway, a ground vehicle Jankum hopefully repaired, while Rock, Majel, Hologram Janeway, and Zero will keep searching for him with the Protostar sensors. The Runaway's engine sputters at first, but a little percussive maintenance shakes off the rust, and she fires up. As they take off, the Protostar registers Dal's comm badge, and Zero relays the coordinates to Gwyn. As Chakotay drives the Runaway, he explains that the lightning isn't the biggest danger on this planet. It's the creatures below the ground who feed off the lightning. What a P-class planet nightmare. Oh, and speaking of which, guess what appears? One of the creatures begins pursuit of the vehicle and chases it into an underground tunnel. This eventually leads Chakotay, Gwyn, Jankum, and Murph to Dal's position, just underneath him. When they catch up to Dal, he doesn't even acknowledge their arrival. And then they see what he sees. It's Adrik. What's left of him, anyway. In his skeletal hands is a canister he was using to collect energy from the lightning. The feathered fool, as Chakotay calls him, must have been killed while trying to execute his plan. But when Chakotay sees antimatter collected inside the canister, it proves that the plan worked. You did it, Adrik, Chakotay tearfully declares. And with that, there is hope that the Protostar might fly once again. And more importantly, Chakotay's convinced that it's what they must do, for themselves, for his fallen crew, for the universe. The end.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, it's kind of hard to unpack a lot of it because if you start to think, from Chakotay's perspective, 10 years. That's, compared, that's much longer than 7 years spent in Delta Quadrant with Voyager, with far fewer comforts and, all alone and no prospects. At least with Voyager, yes, there was a hope that maybe there's going to be a benevolent alien that's going to help out. There's going to be some kind of a shortcut to some kind of spatial anomaly or something. Or at least just plane flying in a straight line. Eventually you're going to hit the Alpha Quadrant in some time. But in this case, there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing.
No hope.
All he has is just the duty to keep the weapon away from Starfleet. That's all. That's all he has. And on top of that, being lost is compounded by the fact that he had complete loss of his crew. So his failure as a captain is, probably weighing more than anything else on him. So it's a heavy start, emotionally speaking.
It really is. It's certainly, I don't know about you, it wasn't what I was expecting initially when I first watched this episode. I thought the reunion would be a little happier, but you know what? I love the subversion of expectations, and I really think that Chakotay's monotonous routine, this is one of my favorite sequences in like all of modern Star Trek, because it just gives us such a clear idea of who this Chakotay is. He's a man with a broken heart, very little hope, and then he has the grit to survive, though, what he thinks is his fate. He's living on this beautiful but harsh planet, and he's going to be here until his final breath, and that is just the way it is. Not a single word is spoken. The score is lovely, of course, and it tells you everything you need to know, and it's so incredibly done.
When I was watching that, they did this repetitiveness, the actions day in, day out, reminding me from season 3, the beginning of season 3 Discovery, where we have a lonely Federation liaison in an abandoned relay station who's guarding a Federation flag for literally decades. I mean, I'm not sure if it's mentioned how many years, but years and years, just waiting for somebody to show up. I mean, in case of Chakotay, he knows that nobody's showing up for him, but it kind of reminded me of that same thing of just doing day in, just doing his duty, whatever it may be. In this case, guarding the weapon. So the similar way when, our crew explains, this whole time traveling snafu, what happened, and he listens to it, but he is cynical, he is grumpy, he is unwilling, and he just goes, no. And that made me think of Captain Shaw in season 3 of Picard. It's the same thing. It's, you have another man who's very much haunted by loss. But I love the fact that you can kind of have these nice parallels with other Trek productions. Yeah.
I can just see Chakotay eating his plasma fruit with fish eggs on it now and just going,
no.
Oh, that's a fantastic parallel you made there. Yeah, these are broken men haunted by loss. That's a great way to put it. And it's been a very long 10 years, it seems like, for Chakotay. Not just emotionally, but I noticed that Chakotay has a bandage on his left forearm. Things have happened over this time. And he's only had hologram Janeway to talk to for a very long time. And I feel like this is a great time like a period of time for the future to fill in a gap. Whether it's fan fiction or actual Trek canon, what are these missing scenes? A short Trek, anything, novels, you name it. Fill in the blanks for us. What did they talk about? What was this cycle like? How did these years slowly break Chakotay down? It could be an incredible journey.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, thinking about, at least he has the hologram, which presumably, she's probably not on if he's conserving power. She's not on at all times.
Right.
So he probably has whole periods where he could be talking to himself, but, very Robinson Crusoe in a way. Just generally, it's, in terms of physical effect, I mean, you can see he's very lean, he's very, rugged. So years have taken their toll. Speaking of fanfiction, just so you know, there is actually already, if you go looking for it, it's already out there. There is fanfiction, Chakotay and involving hologram Janeway. Listen,
good job, fans.
The imaginations of the fans cannot be constrained.
No.
Speaking of him communicating with the hologram, I love the fact that it's very natural, which I suppose is, the result of the product of this practice of literally that she's the only one he can talk to. But, so I dare suggest that obviously hologram Janeway in no way can substitute real Catherine for him.
No.
But he treats her as real enough. I mean, that moment where, he's fixing something, or he's making it look like he's fixing something. Meanwhile, she's standing above him and he's like, I can hear you staring.
It's a great line.
They've been doing this for years. Speaking of, this lack of socialization, basically, I mean, you can only go that far with talking to a hologram. It's almost childish the way he's interacting with kids at the very beginning. It's all, it's my ship. No, it's my ship.
No doubt, it's my toy.
So he on emotional level, Chakotay is in a very bad way. I mean, he has that outburst toward Gwen. I mean, yes, he's suffering at the hands of Vau N'Akat, but it's immediate, very negative reaction. So we see how much he's been affected by this experience in only that little time. It's all these little moments that indicate just how much he had suffered. Something that I wanted to point out, and I love the fact that we see that again. More development to Chakotay than we've seen in ages. It's become a running joke on Voyager. Not unlike Janeway's cooking, that Chakotay just crashes shuttles all the time. Nevertheless, it is known from the series that he actually, in Starfleet Academy, he actually trained as a pilot. So he was a pilot, perhaps not on the level of Tom Paris, but nevertheless, he was a fully qualified pilot who could do things. But he certainly illustrated it when Runaway went into hover mode and they had to do all this fancy flying through the underground tunnels. It was like, old man, very impressive.
Pretty slick. Yeah, based on the way that he drove that thing, this was not the first time he did some sort of high-speed chase expedition on this planet. And my working theory as to why the Runaway broke down years ago was, of course, that he crashed it like a shuttle. And then couldn't fix it because he didn't have Jenkins' tools.
Speaking of Runaway, well, first of all, aside from the fact that it made me think of that of Argo, that crazy land vehicle that Picard and company used in the Nemesis movie. I love the fact that we got this little sort of, at least I interpreted it that way, when Murph basically acts as safety belts. It's a known thing that things kind of flow about and crash, and it's like, how come Starfleet equipment does not have safety belts on all the chairs that we have on the ships, on the runabouts and the shuttles and everything. And I love the fact that it's like, why is the blobby guy here? Oh, he's for security. Well, he's here for safety. He saved their lives when Runway was going all over the place and just grabbed them in place. I love that.
Murph to the rescue.
Speaking of percussive maintenance, I love the fact that it became a thing, that we have this now kind of like a little repeating in-joke that's specific to Prodigy. It's just perfect. And it obviously gets Jenkins something to do as well. He did fix Runaway. Something I was going to ask you. Did you notice that, when Chakotay is being his grumpy self and sits down, so it's like, okay, you're familiar with the ship, go away and be someplace else. I am taking a nap. And he puts a hat on, and it looks like his father's fedora. Now, I'm going to assume that it can't be the actual father's hat because, father's been gone for many, many years. I doubt that he somehow got it from, after Tree was being basically not destroyed, but ravaged by Cardassians. So maybe he just decided sort of like getting a tattoo. It's something that he just, a reminder of his father. He got himself a similar looking fedora. I don't know. Did you see anything online? Like all those little things that get revealed every once in a while on Twitter. Is it meant to be that, or is it just pure coincidence? Just to make him look like a
I definitely saw that connection too. And I thought that is Chakotay's father's hat. That's Kolopak's hat. And I don't know if it actually is his hat, because it would have to have survived many things. The Maquis, he had to have taken it on Voyager after his ship got destroyed, and then bringing it onto the Protostar. This is a long journey for this hat.
Even if he somehow had it with him on his ship in Maquis, when he crashes the ship into Kazon, and they beam him out, it's like, okay, also get his things and don't forget the hat. I don't think that happened.
He did bring his medicine bundle aboard, so maybe he had just enough time to bring a tiny bit of belongings, but it is a little bit of a long shot. Maybe this was one of the very few luxuries that he has created for himself since crashing, is he replicated himself a hat.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good thought.
Maybe. Yeah, I'd love to know from our listeners what they think. Go ahead and comment and let us know what your theory is.
So speaking of just generally the design of things, I absolutely love the new planet. So we have Class P planet that is sort of like the new definition of what it is, because if you have any of the Star Trek charts or anything else, basically the literature, nonfiction literature that accumulated over the decades, Class P used to be defined as glaciated planets, sort of like Andoria, lots of ice and snow. But now that we have an actual definition online, and we can see what a Class P looks like, which is vapor oceans and this incredible palette of colors. Man, my God, what a gorgeous planet! Horribly dangerous planet, but what a beautiful place. So this was great to see, and something new introduced, another strange new world.
It really is. Yes. As Jankum called it, a Class P planetoid nightmare or something like that. Yeah. Visually, I love the color palette because it is different. Like, it's got a darker mood because it's got a darker and bolder color palette. And it's not as bright and it's not as reflective as a lot of scenes in Prodigy are. And it reflects the moodiness of this place, and well done, art team. Like, you're nailing it as always, but we see what you did. We see you.
Yeah, I love the concept of the vapor ocean, because we do have enough gaseous bodies in our own solar system, which I always find a tremendous thought experiment of thinking like, well, what is it when you're going deep into a gas giant? You don't have a surface. So in this case, I mean, presumably there is a surface. In this case, this is a rocky planet, but nevertheless, the concept like you're not swimming in it, because it's not water, it's literally vapor. So that part of, just purely from scientific point of view, was a wonderful thing to contemplate.
Yeah, and how dense is it, and what is it made of? A lot of really great questions. Maybe we can save those and talk to Dr. Aaron sometime, because she would probably be the one to know. Now, I did notice what might have been one little mishap in this episode, and that is when Chakotay approaches Adric. He notices Adric's comm badge, takes it in his hand. And in the next shot, though, the comm badge is back on Adric's uniform. Oops.
Maybe. Or maybe he just really, really quickly put it back.
And then took it back.
I didn't
with
even notice. I don't know.
It's like one second.
I didn't even notice. I have to go back and rewatch though.
Yeah, I wish I would have timestamped it and that I could tell you what it was. But, speaking of Adric, story-wise, I had to wonder, did Chakotay ever go out looking for Adric? Is that how he broke the vehicle, was going out and finding Adric? Again, another missing scene that I would love to know a little more about.
He probably did. He probably did before he finally, I feel like before he finally lost all hope. He probably tried because, I mean, he was the only remaining crew member. He was his friend. So I am sure he had to. I'm sure he went, and it was probably like just basically the additional level of despair, the fact that that's it, he's gone and I can't even find him, like even remains. So,
and yet,
he probably did.
We found him fairly easily here. But then what? Yeah, more brains, more manpower, all those things makes a big difference as displayed through the episode. Yeah. So how about we just jump right into the discussion, just because that's the thought I have, and I know you've got a bunch of stuff here too. So let's start though with Janeway. Janeway it was so good to see her, and you know why? It's because she's a beacon of hope, always. Yes. It's like, even though this initial reunion was a little bittersweet because she does not know anything that has happened yet, they become, like, she and the cadets become old friends in no time. It takes no time at all. It's because she's a source of comfort and hope and wisdom for them in any incarnation. It just works. Yeah. And I love that so much. More, in this particular case, she also serves as, in a way, Chakotay's conscience, because she's the one who shames him. She's the one who tells him, like, you're not, like, Adric wouldn't have done that, what you're doing. Like, compassion goes a long way. So she's on his case. And I love the way that, we know that she was a great mentor to the kids in the first season. Here, she's obviously still fulfilling the same purpose, only it's all directed to Chakotay, who's, in a really bad state of things. She is kind of his check, sort of in the way Chakotay would check Janeway on occasion. Like, are you sure this is what you want to do? If this is the decision you want to make, I'm your first officer. I have to make you take a step back and rethink. And so, that's what made them such a great team, though. They were never better than when they were at odds, honestly. Yeah. Just because they would both make really good points, and then really what it boiled down to was who's the captain. That's the decision that gets made. And speaking of captains, I mean, Dal and Chakotay, the petty, it's my ship. I loved it, though, when Dal lost patience with Chakotay and says, is this how Starfleet trains their captains to be broken old man? Are you just going to give up hope when everything is really tough? And because that's how I was feeling watching this. I understood where Chakotay was coming from, and it was hard to watch. And it's just like, no, Chakotay, come back to us. And this is sort of like a, hey, snap out of it kind of a moment.
It was a nice balance and contrast, because I mean, Del again was being Del. He didn't have patience enough to behave in any other way. He's the one who's going to ripping the Band-Aid off, whereas the rest of the crew is actually surprisingly sensible. I mean, Gwyn is like, well, he's been stuck here for 10 years. We can't expect him to change his mind or change his behavior for that
rational.
matter in the matter of one day. And Magellan's like, immediate survival kind of takes precedence over arguing whose ship this is. Come on. Even Jankum. I mean, Jankum, who is like, his social graces are nowhere near of anybody else. He's also the one who's like, we don't need this fight. He's trying to break the tension. And, Del is being Del. What's more, something that I kind of wanted to mention that, we have going way back to Voyager when Chakotay was talking about himself in his younger years, and he referred to him in resolutions as the angry warrior. That actually kind of is the state that he is in right now, only probably even at a lower point, perhaps less angry, but more cynical. And he lost his faith. He lost this spark of an explorer. I mean, we were talking about that. Did he go looking for a drink? He probably did, and then he stopped. He probably stopped because he realized it's just like he could not bear to take any more risks.
What's the point? Yeah.
And so, how do you deal with a person this traumatized? So that it's part of the things that the kids kind of have to figure out how to behave around him. And I like the fact that they went about it in a very positive way, sort of like to show him like, yes, remember Starfleet, working as a teamwork, it works.
Right.
So, an honorable man who got very, very bitter, but who still has part of his true himself still there, willing to keep going at this bleak routine and guarding the weapon, trying to protect the Federation, even though now he knows that he didn't even have to do that. Well, who knew?
Yeah. I really wonder, did Chakotay just lose himself entirely once he realized it was just him, hologram Janeway on this planet? They're slowly going to lose power, and then the years are going to go by, and
I mean, again, it's like he knew there were, even though it's like however long he was going to be there, he knew there were no prospects because the ship is not getting off this planet. Nobody's looking for him, at least from his perspective. Like that's it. It's like he kind of resigned himself to his fate.
Yeah, Angry Warrior, that's perfect for where we're going to go next week, just to jump the gun a little bit. But it also reminds me of something Chakotay said to Janeway in Scorpion, and it was, "You're not alone." And I think that's what our cadets show him, is, guess what? We're here now, and everything has changed as a result. Yeah. We're going to get through this. And Gwen says it best, there's always another way. And so they can finally help Chakotay dig out of this emotional trench that he's been in for a very long time. Because I'm sure for him, this feels like it's been forever. And 10 years is a very long time to feel hopeless. But thankfully, nothing is forever. And I mean, that is a very powerful thing that our cadets were able to at least help turn that around just simply by being themselves. Like, hey, we're not done. We're not finished yet. We're going to clean this thing up. We're going to make it sail. We've got this. We're not done yet.
Yeah.
No, I love it so much.
Certainly, it's wonderful where, well, again, it goes back to the same thing. Like, you're not, working as a team. The circumstances change. You have new options. At least there's somebody else is trying to think and solve the problem. Additional resources. I mean, we have between Jankum and Magellan. I mean, you have a whole slew of potential problem solvers out there.
Absolutely.
I like the very end of it. It's a sort of like, it's a very soft, the ending to, like, it's a slightly mysterious statement. It's like, before the ship can fly, first it has to sail. Well, what does it mean? I mean, you and I know what it means, but we shall see in the next part. In a way, it kind of makes me think of, the saying that you must crawl before you can walk. So, like, it's solving the little things before you can go on and move on to big things, which is precisely what's happening this season.
Yes, we've got to take those baby steps to do the big things. That's how you do it. Yeah, we've talked about that a few times, where if just the more you break it down, the easier it gets to accomplish the big thing, because you're doing a series of smaller things. And so, one step at a time. Well, how about we move into our wrap-up? What have we learned? Any final thoughts that you have on part 1 of The Last Flight of the Protostar?
So we have another brilliant episode. I mean, we're going to be like literally saying this nonstop about every single one.
Oh,
We're already halfway through.
Get used to it.
We get another incredible two-parter experience. You know, the Devour of all things blew my mind. Now we're moving on to the next one. I feel like we flipped the intensity a little bit. You know, we went from being confronted with, oh, the problem is so much bigger than we thought, or we knew for that matter. But still, it's a bit of a, you know, like from frying pan into a fire experience, because now we actually have to, as we said, start solving the little problems before we move on and try to save the universe for all intents and purposes. So,
no joke.
It's, you know, so we went, you know, like everything with Wesley, so universe big, to dealing with on personal level small. You know, we learned the fate of the timeline is hanging by a thread. We faced the terrible, terrible loom, and now we went to literally getting stuck on a very dangerous planet with a broken ship and an equally broken Starfleet captain. So, so here we are, you know, trying to solve the steps, you know, like little problems before facing a much bigger one.
We sure did, but that's a really good testament to our crew, shifting gears like that from a really big existential universe-ending problem to an interpersonal issue, and trying to get Chakotay back on board so that they can keep moving. And I got to tip my hand just a little bit, say that we're in the middle of one of the best two-parters in all of Star Trek. I love everything about this. Like, I think emotionally we are in high gear. This episode takes such a journey. The way that it ebbs and flows, like this episode is an emotional ocean, maybe like a vapor ocean, if you will. And look, I'm having a good time. Let's go sailing. This is great. Well, all right. I think we've reached the end of our show, and I don't know about you, but I can't wait to just go watch part 2 again. Frankly, that's what I'm going to do. But before we go, we have one more thing before we close up shop, and that is to give you that special code we talked about you can use to enter our giveaway. And so you're going to find that only here, and here is what it is. It's Plasma Fruit. Plasma Fruit, PLASMAFRUIT. And again, go to our giveaway video that you'll have directions on how to use this code and other ways that you can enter. And look also on social media channels, because we'll be talking about this throughout the back half of the season, because the contest runs through November. Yeah.
So thank you everyone for joining us here on Mission Log Prodigy. If you have enjoyed our show, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our Mission Log Prodigy playlist on the Roddenberry Entertainment YouTube channel, or you find us on your podcast catcher of choice. Mission Log Prodigy is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment, production and technical direction by Earl Green. Our website and your opportunity to comment and connect with us is missionlogpodcast.com. And if you'd like to support Mission Log directly, you can do so at patreon.com/missionlog.
Next week, we will take a look at The Last Flight of the Protostar Part 2. And cadets, don't forget to watch both parts of this story. Send us your thoughts no later than Saturday, September 21st. We can't wait to hear what you have to say, and we're going to feature your voice messages at the end of our next show. So until next week, live logs and proper, and go fast.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.